Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to WBJ Radio Sports 107.9 FM, 1240 AM for the Coach Shawn Witten Show for Week 2, Round 2 of the 2021 TSSAA 4A playoffs. Tonight we're going to be joined, Tony Briggs and myself, Stacy Street, we're joined by head coach Shawn Witten as we talk about tonight's big matchup with the Anderson County Mavericks. We'll recap first last week's big victory here at home against the Knox Carter Hornets, a little bit about that game, and then talk a little bit about tonight's game. Coach Witten, first of all, you always worry about this first round, how your team's going to respond, a new opponent coming in, one of those Knoxville teams that always runs the gauntlet that is Knox County. Tell our listeners a little bit about what your final thoughts are about that first round game.
Well, just one play changed the whole concept of the game. We brag on a lot of people, Stacy, but just a guy that's new to our program, that's really being an unsung hero, that's really just a quiet person that goes about his business. But a lot of fans may not know about him. But Eli Williams' interception right before half really changed the whole landscape of the game. We did a great job of really dominating the first half. We felt like we were in total control, but when you look at the scoreboard, we're only up 13-0. We had got a run game going. Knox Carter was a scrappy team on defense. We were getting 5 and 8 and 12 yards, but we just couldn't get the big play. And I really liked the way our offensive line set the tone. We ran the ball really well. We're a little bit conservative on defense, the way that they came in the passing attack, but one play changed the whole landscape of the game, and that was Eli Williams.
Yep, and Tony and I talked about that. You really were in control, but you look at the scoreboard, you kind of had that uneasy feeling, and you think, okay, it's playoffs. All you got to do is win, but 13-0 sure didn't feel as good as 19-0 going in there. And when with that interception and that long return, that lit a spark that didn't let up the rest of the ballgame.
Well, it was a good job by our linebackers. We've been them all year long about the RPO passes, about not biting up on the play fakes, and just they extended that series. We gave them 2 penalties to get them converted to first downs. We had an opportunity to get the ball back and maybe score, but to be able to go up 19-0 and get the ball back in the second half, it really kind of changed the whole the outcome of the game. And then we felt like we were in control of the game, the way we could run the ball. We didn't really want to take a lot of chances. We only had 10 passing attempts in the entire game, but we felt like that if we didn't give up the big play against them defensively, that they really couldn't beat us. We really won the game on the scoreboard at times, Stacy, but we didn't really win by our energy and our effort all the way through the course of the game. We probably had as many missed blocking assignments as we've had all year, and at times, we didn't rally around and gang tackle. We kind of let them kind of spurt out a couple of times on some of the pass plays. But, overall, we learned a lot about ourselves. I think that, the game kind of got, kind of chippy towards the end, and it really didn't need to. That was a really good team that, that really challenged us, and it made us learn from our mistakes.
And we talked about this a lot, the penalties, but how do you keep your players focused in a game like that where you've got a coach that gets too personal, gets tossed, takes his sweet time getting off the field? You got referees standing over the ball, refusing to let the game proceed until he leaves. Then you got the big boy for him that rightfully so got tossed by the punches. And how difficult it is to say, hey, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 15-year-old, we're not going to do that.
Well, every time you see a yellow flag, Stacy, you just really worry about, when the next one is, when officials are tossing their guys and personal fouls, you get 2, you're ejected, and you can't play in the next game. And also, you really worry about guys like Trenton when their helmets come off 5 and 6 times in the course of the game, and just because they just continue to get flagged on those as well. But I just think you got to constantly remind them. And that you see it when the game's over. At times we didn't play till the whistle blows, and at times we didn't play with a chip on our shoulder. We didn't play with that edge because we're telling them not to, kind of push the line. But at times it seems like. We could have finished some tackles, we could have finished some plays, and we didn't. Maybe it was because we were afraid of what the outcome can be. But we're just constantly reminding those guys to play smart. We've had our fair share throughout the course of the year, and we just let these guys know that accountability is at a premium in the playoffs, that one play, one penalty can really change the outcome of the game.
In all your 15 years, it seemed like we always get the ball first. The other team wins the toss, they go first. This time they flipped it. They won the toss. They actually got the ball. Defensively, made a good stand, turned the ball over, went down to score. How important was that setting the tone for you as a play caller?
Well, I thought it was really good for us to actually have, we actually, we script the first couple of series or first couple of plays of the game, but, we're kind of tossing around a little bit of what we really wanted to go with, and we had some different looks we wanted to show, but it's, first time in a long time our defense goes out there first, and Mason Williams has been another guy that's really done a good job on kickoffs and setting the tempo early. We knew they were going to throw the ball and do some things. We went to a three-man front, but it was really good to see our defense kind of rally around and make some plays, early in the game and get a 3 and out, give us the ball back in great field position, and kind of take those chances. A lot of times most people, always defer, to put your defense out there and go play. But, we've been so fortunate around here for a long period of time that, we've always taken the ball. We try to steal an extra possession, in the first half and try to really get off to a great start, with the things that we can do offensively. So it was really good to see our defense go out there and hold their own.
And, speaking of that, you was talking about Eli Williams with that pick. We come back and you had to burn the timeout because of the personnel issue. You only had 10 out there. So you had possibly one, maybe two plays. We score, we get the ball back, we score again, we're up 27-0 because you were allowed to, as me and Stacy, double dip.
Yeah, we got the interception and we did. Guys were out in front. Cade Russell, Caleb Johnson were out there blocking in front of him. Got the ball down the 10-yard line, or actually the 6-yard line. We had one timeout with 10 seconds. We have two different kind of goal line packages. One with Cade in there, one with he's out. Mason Ball, just trying to get the right personnel. We just got really lucky, there with 10 seconds left. You run the ball. No timeouts, you go into halftime, so we had to really take a shot to the end zone. We were able to execute that with Jake on the fade, but just hats off to our players for executing. Like I said, that one game, that one play changed the whole landscape of the game, and it's just that's the plays you have to make in the playoffs.
Final question on this segment. We're looking special teams. Seems like our extra point is not as crisp as it has been in the past, and I've heard you say, we don't need to chase points, don't need to chase points. We missed another one again Friday night. What do you need to do to shore that up to where it gets back to being like it was in the past?
Well, it just comes down to guys got to relax and execute, in the playoffs and crunch time, and then we try to go for two once we scored there. And first time in 3 years we've got stopped in the Beef Packers ball on the 3-yard line. We ran a ball behind Connor and Trenton and Brad and Blake and Mason. It don't get no bigger than that, but. Yeah, especially Bryson. That's the first time he's been out of the end zone on that play in 3 years. But there's small areas that we got to just continue to get working each and every week. Just one play could be the difference in an extra point or a field goal or a block, and we just got to be better in those areas. And there's a lot of things when you go back and watch the film that you got to learn from. And we've won a lot of games by 1 point. We've lost a lot of games by just 1 point. So. Those guys just got to tighten that up this week and get themselves ready, and hopefully it doesn't come back and get us tonight.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the first half of the recap of last week's Week 1 TSSAA 4A playoffs victory over Knox Carter. We come back, we'll preview tonight's Anderson County matchup as we're on the road down in Clinton, Tennessee. We'll be back after these words. All right, welcome back to the Coach Shawn Witten Show. Coach, Anderson County, all familiar foe. 0-2 down here. We beat them this year at our place, but it was coming off the week where they lost their quarterback. They were a little bit of disarray because they didn't know what they was. How much different is the team now than they was in Week 5?
Well, Anderson County, first and foremost, is that they're a confident program. They do a great job in a lot of their schemes, especially offensively. There's a lot of good blocking schemes. We mentioned after this game, Week 6, that it was really big boy football. I mean, there's a lot of girth and a lot of size and a lot of speed on that side of the football with what they do offensively. They got a core group that really sets the tone for them. A couple linemen, a couple tight end H-backs, and a running back that really do a great job of leading that football team. Anderson County is a strong team. They do a lot of great schemes. And they've done a great job. They run some Wildcat. They've inserted a freshman quarterback. They were a little shell-shocked the first time we played them. Just didn't know what to do offensively. They've got a really good receiver in Bryson Val, who's a playmaker that was basically a non-factor in the first game. He's a home run threat. He's a lot like a Parker Hughes or a Jake Roberts that can beat you over the top. I mean, he's a little bit more involved. But really it comes down to Gavin Noe. Gavin Noe is a running back that he's had multiple games with 25 carries or more. In the second round game a year ago against Greenville, he had 40 carries. So we expect Gavin Noe's number to be called a lot tonight.
What can you take from week 1 or the week we played in week 5, even though the different quarterback, but they still did the Wildcat? What can you take and build off of that to prepare for tonight's contest?
Well, I think our guys just got to understand, number one, it's going to be a physical football game. And number two, we're going to have to make plays over and over and over again. They've done a few things formation-wise and with, rotating 2 quarterbacks in there. They really do a great job of keeping you on your toes. And the thing about it is also is just, there are a lot of formation sets with their tight ends and H-backs. They try to do a great job of keeping you, outflanked or off leverage or misaligned. And those 2 guys can catch the football. And so, really the passing game was a non-factor. We forced 2 turnovers. We stopped them once on a 4th down, and then we also had a couple bad snaps in that game for our defense. So I expect, to be a little bit cleaner game for them offensively. And we learned a lot about our team offensively in that game. We didn't use a lot of our H-backs. We actually ran an H-back set 3 times in this game. We went more tight end. We took a lot of shots deep. We got down in the red zone a couple times, and we got kind of pass happy. They play a lot of man-to-man, which, we don't see a lot, but we've worked a lot of those. We were off a couple of times on the deep balls, but we just got to do a better job of executing, and we expect to see a lot of the same things we saw week 6.
This senior group, they were down there the last time we was there in 2018, where we felt like we had a real good shot of going in there and beating them. We got hurt, Corey gets hurt, Cotter Everett gets hurt. But how do you take these young people and have them tune out the hype, the show, the offer, what they want to be? How do you take this young core group and tell them just to block it out?
Well, it's definitely got to start in the mind, and it started on Monday with the preparation of understanding, number one, our skill group has got to be better than their skill group. In 15 years, Henderson County is a tough place to play. It is a tough environment, and you got to be able to block out that noise. But I think it's a mindset of physicality. Their record is 6-5, but they're a proven football team because they've played really good competition, and so these guys are ready for a rematch. They're ready to embrace an opportunity. And the thing about it too is also Anderson County, this is 5 years in a row they've played at home round 2, whether it's been us twice, Greenville twice, and now us for the 3rd time. The bar is really set high for them to be able to get to round 3. And, it just shows how tough, the 3 teams are in this region. And it's a really tough place to play. And it's really going to be a dogfight, And I think our guys have really learned, our core senior group with Bryson, Trenton, Caleb Johnson, Brad, Grayson, those guys understand really what it's going to take to go down there and get a big win.
Coach, we talked a little bit about you start worrying about those penalties when you see all those flags flying last Friday night. We know from the first game, other than the Ray County game, that this was big boy football, as you said. How important it is tonight for these Cyclones? How important is it that they play through the whistle, that they finish those tackles, that they finish those blocks? Well,
we got to be a smart football team, and I think we got to kind of play one step ahead. The thing about it is when you get down and play these games is, the whole sideline, the whole coaching staff, everybody as a unit has really got to keep their composure. And Anderson County is a quick scoring strike team early. They like to They're going to try to capitalize on a lot of big plays to get us down, to kind of feed off of the energy. Those guys, too, have a strong core senior group that really understands what it takes to win these games. They've come up short several times, pushing themselves through. So, we know that there's going to be a big challenge game, but we just got to be smart. We got to understand the situations. We got to understand the things that they're trying to do to us. They're going to feed off of those sort of things, and it just really comes down to us just keeping our composure and making sure we get lined up and play the next play.
Been asked all week, is their quarterback coming back? Is their quarterback coming back? We know now he's not going to. The star quarterback is going to take the scholarship to Dartmouth and not play anymore, to play it safe. And against us, they take probably one of their best players at that corner, one of the top corners in the state, put him in over there at quarterback, and they realized that it was hurting him and hurting them on defense, so now they put the freshman in there.
Yeah.
Do you think that changes whether they'll pass the ball? We know we're going to see two H-backs. We know we're going to see Gavin. We're going to see 25 for all night long. But what do you think that does to their passing game?
Well, I think any coach that has a freshman in there or a backup quarterback in there, it's all about just getting him comfortable. It's getting him looks that make him really comfortable and making him easy throws, and they do a lot of play action to throw the ball to those guys in the flats. Any quarterback, when you're starting to run the football and people have to load the line of scrimmage, it's easy for a quarterback to kind of make that touch throw, that deep ball, and let your guys go make plays. So, we expect those things to happen. Guys like Nate, Jake, they got to do a great job of playing man-to-man coverage tonight. A lot of the similarities on both sides of the ball in the same type of schemes of us using Brad, and Mason and Blake, using Trenton sometimes at offense, that it forces people, they either stay back in coverage or they come up and load the line of scrimmage and create one-on-one opportunities. So we expect them to take their shots. We expect them that, he's going to have to make some plays. He had 2 interceptions last week against Seymour. He held on the ball, had a couple sacks. So if we can do a great job in our coverage, we can come up with some big plays in the game against him. But, we expect maybe some screens. We expect maybe some early draws, maybe some misdirection passes. And, it goes back to old school, too. One of the quarterback's best friends is a tight end. Is just getting easy passes to tight end. They got one of the best in the state.
Final question. Got over the Anderson County hump earlier this year by finally beating them, but we haven't beaten them there. How important it is for you to, in the big picture, to go down there and advance to round 3 by beating them, and that extremely difficult place to play with their little cemetery and their fireworks and the one-sided stand and the obnoxious PA announcer.
Right.
It's a time to put that to rest.
Right. Well, I think it's really going to take an elite mindset. I'm glad that we've got this senior group that's learned from that. Guys like, Bryson Rollins that understands really what it's going to take to kind of come out with a big win. And, I think that understanding that, there's a lot of things that it's going to come down to the last play. It's going to come down to the last possession. And, we just got to do a great job of keeping our composure. But I think the leadership on this team is really what's most important, to get these guys to understand how physical this game's going to be. But, it's just words can't describe, going into Burley Stadium a year ago and winning and getting a win against them during the regular season. But down there, it's just a different story. They're a different team in their place versus they are up here. It's a long place to go. It's a long place to travel. The environment with one-sided stands, it's a dark place to play. So it's just, it's an elite mindset that has to start early in the season, and I think for us too that everybody wants to get back to, even at 17 and 18 is get back to the Greenville and get a rematch, and like Greenville's been able to do that in 19 and 20. They bit disappointing losses to us in the regular season. They went down there, huge wins on the road when they shouldn't have won at all. And that's kind of what our team is about. It's about respect. It's about, playing with the chip on our shoulder. It's really, making sure that, as a team, We've really got to execute at a high level. Reminds me a lot of going to Nolensville a year ago. All things aside of the distance to travel, we scored on all 11 possessions down in Nolensville a year ago. I mean, we need a strong offensive performance tonight. We're going to get some stops. They're going to run the football. We're going to make some plays defensively, but it's how much offensive productive we can have, and it all starts with Bryson Rollins and Cade Russell tonight.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the final word from the Coach Shawn Witten Show tonight as the Cyclones prepare to do battle with the Anderson County Mavericks in Clinton, Tennessee, as we travel down to Anderson County tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you joining us here on WBJ Radio Sports. We'll take this quick word from our sponsors. When we come back, Tony and I will have our preview of the game, and then we'll have the kickoff tonight at 7 p.m. from Anderson County as the Cyclones look to advance to round 3 of the 2021 TSSAA 4A playoffs. Thank you very much for joining us on WBJ Radio Sports. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Welcome here to halftime show. We're joined by Coach Campbell. Coach, first and foremost, glad you could come here and join us here on halftime. Former player,
Yep.
come back. Now you're the defensive coordinator. You worked under Coach Ogg. Tell us, what's the difference in going back when you played to what it is now?
It's completely different. Honestly, the amount of just the amount of information that we try to get to these kids now is so much more than we used to get. Terminology is completely different. Everything, basic technique, things like that, all that stuff. Names change, but the technique, stays the same. But just so much more technology, so much more information, between huddle and being able to, sometimes we go through 7 or 8 films. Like, these kids get so much information when it comes to playing week to week, and besides just helping us, like, I couldn't imagine, half the time when we played, we had 2 films and it was all on VHS. It was, rewind play, and now you're watching 7 games in a couple hours of every team you play. So just, for me, like, the biggest difference is, these kids get so much more information and have so much more knowledge about their opponents and the game of football than we ever had. The basic stuff, technique, never changes. They call it something different.
You look back at when you played, which was in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. You look now, did you ever think that you'd envision seeing, not just talk about what we got, a TV on the sideline showing huddle, 5 or 6 iPads where you got 5 or 6 coaches watching different things. You've got a monitor upstairs that you all are watching along with an iPad. Did you ever think that there would be this much into the game of football?
Not at a high school level. No, I mean, that's just one of those. Even when I started, I was amazed at where we were at then, and that was going on 8 years ago now, and it's leaps and bounds from where we were then, and it's just amazing. It really is. It's not that much different as far as the access to all the information than a college level or a pro level. It's just the amount of detail that you actually get into with the players is obviously a little bit more, but the access and the instant access, we're reviewing play by play. I'm reviewing it upstairs as it happens. We're reviewing it as a defensive unit on the sideline when they come off the field, and it's instant. We're making adjustments on the fly. We're correcting, technique on the fly. I mean, it's amazing.
Final question before I turn it over to Stacy. 8 years ago, you was approached about joining the staff. How does it make you feel? Dave Campbell, not Coach Campbell, but Dave Campbell, knowing he was a former Cyclone, that you get to don the colors of the black and orange again, this time as a coach?
To be honest, like, this is what I've always wanted to do. When I went to college, that kind of took me in a different direction, and I can't imagine. I teach engineering, and I went to school for engineering, so I can't imagine it happening any other way. but I always had that in me where, you know, I wanted to teach and I wanted to coach and I wanted to be involved with this community and this school. And it was just amazing how everything, the time when it was right for me to make that decision and the fact that the job became available and, you know, everything just sort of fell into place. And it, like, still to this day, I mean, it was just meant to be, I feel like.
Well, let's pick up right there where you're at. You come on and Stan Hogg, who sometimes makes you feel like you want to be put in an institution, but he is an institution here at Elizabethton High School, longtime defensive coordinator. How does it feel and what did it mean to you to try to step in to the position that he's held so long at Elizabethton High School?
Honestly, it was scary, you know, just because he was such a big part of this program. But I spent so much time with him, and I took so much away from him over the 3 years that I was with him that, you know, really we didn't change a whole lot from the way he did things. You know, we adapted a little bit to the kids that we had, and you know, we maybe simplified a few things here and there, but for the most part, I mean, everything that I know, I took from him. You know, the base of all of my knowledge came from him anyway. So, you know, even though I may have taken over for him, he still has a big part of the program because that's really where I came from.
Right. How does your training as an engineer play into the way that you approach setting up your game plans, the techniques, and probably more important, Tony and I talk about this all the time. Over the last 2 or 3 years, had a couple of rough first halves, but at half times, the adjustments that you've been able to make as a defensive coordinator and a staff just sometimes are completely amazing about the difference in what you're able to stop. How does your training as an engineer come into that?
Well, as far as the engineering goes, I feel like I'm the numbers guy. Like I love breaking down film. I love statistics. You know, to me, numbers don't lie, and I base a lot of my thoughts about what we need to do week to week or adjustments we need to make based off of those numbers.
Like they're going to run on this.
Oh yeah,
like how many times they're
I can
line up.
You know, you would be amazed at the amount of detail sometimes that I get into. Like it's. You know, it's down in distance, it's on the hash, it's, you know, I'll break it down every 10 yards sometimes just to see if there's, no matter what, I mean, everyone is going to have a tendency or a tale of what they're going to do, and, you know, numbers are going to tell you before anything else what that is, and that's just, I'm a numbers guy, I love statistics. So as far as like the adjustments and stuff we make at halftime, that's really the group of guys that we have as a defensive staff. And I think it plays, you know, it's a really good group because everybody has their own sort of unique role. You know, I am without a doubt the numbers guy. Like I know everything that everyone else that we play is going to do as well as they know it. You know, I try my best to be as comfortable with their offense as they are. But a lot of the adjustments and a lot of the things that we do at halftime have a lot to do with, you know, Coach Harrison as far as the run game and Coach Grindstaff and Coach Jenkins, you know, when it comes to coverage and the passing game. The first thing, I make a beeline straight to the locker room. We kind of get off to ourselves, and, you know, in 5 minutes between the 3 or 4 of us, we have a plan. And it's the way the group works together is really what makes it work. It's not any one of us that comes up with, you know, the great adjustment or the fix to, you know, something that we're doing wrong. It's just the fact that we all work so well together that within 5 minutes we've got it. We've got time to go out there and get it to our kids to where they understand it, and then, you know, it's just up to them to execute it.
You got a 2-time defending state champions team. You got a team that comes in this year and they've lost one ball game. So you're 39-1 over the last 3 years. High school's like any other level of football, but more so because you're dealing with younger kids. How are you able to take dominant defenses, but they're plugged in with different players? I mean, you no longer have Deuce. You got Trenton Taylor in there now, who wasn't always a star, who's risen to that level. The defensive line seems to always have been a strength over this strong run we've had. Linebackers were all basically new at the first game or two this year because of injuries and so forth. How are you able to do it? Is it the system? And you got to have good athletes, and all those guys are. But does the system play more importantly, or do you try to mold your game plan and your preparation to the players that you have?
It's a little bit of both. A lot of it is the simplification, and not necessarily, we don't run a simple defense, but the concepts that we try to teach the kids, we try to simplify it in a way to where anyone can understand it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you've been around a year or you've been around for 4 years. We try to make it, as far as how we introduce it and how we teach it, simple for anyone to understand. Something that anyone can kind of grasp the concepts of. But two, we do things, for the past 3 years, every year we've done something a little different. This year we've done more just because we have more younger kids on defense than we've had in the past. But we adapt what we do to the kids that we have to. That's at a high school level, you have to do that, because it changes every year, and we're not out recruiting kids, so you never know what group you're going to get. So you have to have some level of adaptation to the kids that you got coming in. But I think a lot of it is just having that strong foundation of the basic concept that that's everyone teaches that the same way. All 4 of us are on the same page, so all the kids are getting the same information all the time, and that is kind of where everything starts. And then we tweak things here or there to just work with the kids that we have.
Talk to Ron Witten about this all the time. It doesn't matter if there's 50 or there's 80 kids on an Elizabethton football team. Every one of them get coached up at their particular position.
Oh, yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Starters or otherwise?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't ever divide the team up. The only time that we even really separate the younger linebackers, for instance, because I coach inside linebackers, the only time we ever separate those guys is when we get to the playoffs and we're running true scout teams for a full week. Other than that, all year long, we're all together all the time. So whether you're a freshman or you're a senior, you're getting the same content and the same drills, the same reps as everyone else.
Ladies and gentlemen, that plays a huge part in the reason why our Elizabethton Cyclones are 39-1 over the last 3 years. Coach Campbell, we wanted to get you in here for a long time. Great time to have you here in week 2 of the playoffs. We're going to run this about halftime, so let's come out in the second half and shut them down and get to round 3.
Hopefully.
Thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Dave Campbell, the defensive coordinator for your Elizabethton Cyclones. Tonight, we'll be back after these words from our sponsors with the second half of this all-important second-round game in Anderson County as your Cyclones look to advance to round 3 here on WBJ Radio Sports.